Previously on Ambitions of Ragnar. As Ragnar awoke, he found himself discussing battle with a powerful man. Was this the test he'd been looking for? It's been 2 days since Ragnar's dream of defeat. Ragnar took dreams seriously and wanted to ensure that whatever the gods were trying to tell him, that he'd prove them wrong. He wanted to harden his men in battle, so he set out to Imperial Lands to do what his people do best: raiding. And of course, killing every raider and looter that they came across along the way. And eventually, Ragnar and his men reached the Imperial Lands. It was yet again time to face another challenge. Would Ragnar be able to lead his men to successfully raid their first village?
Bowmen! Get moving! Sergeants! Warriors! Shield wall, now! One man, move! Infantry! Shield forward! One man, forward! Get moving! Onward! One man! Shield forward! Give them hell!
Although Ragnar and his men successfully raided the village, he'd taken more casualties than he was comfortable with. He'd realized his men were at a disadvantage when it came to archer fire, and it was taking a toll on the outcome of his battles. His next goal was to obtain some of the best archers around, and he'd make sure that he had a lot of them in order to even the playing field in future battles. Ragnar entered Battanian Lands, where he searched far and wide for a famed unit of archers called Battanian Fiends, who were notoriously known for their brutal edge they provided in battle. It was once rumored that 50 good Fiend champions could take on upwards to 150 to 200 men alone, without ever being touched. He helped Battanian village leaders in hopes to gain their favor and in turn be given access to the recruitment of these archers. All was going well until one of the leaders asked him to do something that left him with a tough decision to make. He'd been asked to recover the leader's daughter from her lover that she'd ran away with. Ragnar eventually tracked them down to a village not too far away, where he'd searched extensively for them until he found their camp set up in the hills just outside of town. He'd pleaded with the daughter endlessly to go back to her father, but at last it came down to only one option that Ragnar hadn't considered before. He'd have to one-on-one duel her lover to the death. Ragnar, disappointed with the decision he had to make, decided to take a break from the search of archers, and he'd hoped to test the ones he'd managed to recruit to see how they'd hold up in battle. But whilst looking for a fight, he noticed the city he'd just finished selling to had rebelled against Battania, so he decided to watch as the king took down the rebels. Ragnar had never seen so many men on the field of battle, and it motivated him to someday be there, commanding his own army someday. And later that night, he'd finally found a fight he was looking for, a strong group of men running a caravan. He'd managed to cut them off and engage them. They had no choice but to fight.
Onwards! Arrows! Bowmen! Forward! Arrow! Move out! Arrows! Loose formation! Infantry! Bowmen! Follow your sergeants! Bow! Forward! Arrows! Get moving! Arrows!
Ragnar realized the riches he'd received from raiding this caravan and knew if he kept this up, he'd be able to afford multiple caravans of his own in no time. But just before he could celebrate the victory, the caravan was backed up by an army of the Empire, furious with Ragnar for invading their lands.